Hello friends, welcome to another interesting and informative episode. The sun is blazing hot. I'm in my backyard garden. Things are doing good. Okay, today I want to teach you how to plant peanuts in a container. If you're new here, you're welcome. You can learn tips and tricks to grow affordable food at home. So consider watching other episodes. So let's get in. Oh. Sorry friends, after 6 years of study in natural resources management and environmental law, I fell deeply, madly in love with plants. Look at this beauty. Welcome to 254 Nature Growers. Subscribe and join this plant-loving community. Make sure your container is 11 to 18 inches deep or 30 to 45 centimeters deep, and wide, it should be 20 inches wide or 50 centimeters wide. If you choose a container that is less than 11 inches deep, you will not get a good peanut harvest, because as peanuts grow, you have to keep on earthing them up. You have to keep on healing, adding soil to the pegs that will attach to the ground to form more pods. So make sure you choose a container that will give enough depth for the peanuts to develop. Peanuts are not even nuts. Oh, that's a funny thing. They're called peanuts. But peanuts are legumes. And they grow underground. They don't grow like walnuts on trees. So they develop underground. So if you get a container that is less than 11 inches deep, it means that your peanut plants will not have enough space to develop the pods. Your pot should have sufficient drainage holes. These are my drainage holes. If your soil becomes waterlogged, your peanuts will not develop, they will not grow well. When you water your peanut plants in this container, or whichever container you are using, these drainage holes will drain out any excess water so that your soil remains moist. The next tip is just to use some pieces of stone to cover the base so that the soil you use, your potting mix, does not block the drainage holes. So select some stones like this. These are just stone cuttings. I place them at the bottom of the container. Potting mix will not cover the drainage spaces. Also, I'm using a black container, and in this area the temperatures go high, even higher than 29 degrees Celsius. So I just made some holes around the container to try and reduce the heat that will build up in this container. If you don't want to make holes, you can also paint the container white. But this way, I've just reduced the amount of heat that will be held will build up in this container when my groundnuts are growing. This is my potting mix, and it's a mixture of my compost and my garden soil. If you use garden soil alone, your soil will become compacted and you won't get peanuts. Because peanuts they grow underground, and your soil should never be compacted. So this mix of garden soil and compost is high in organic matter. It's very high in organic matter, so it's free draining, and it will also supply the nutrients that my groundnut needs. Groundnuts or peanuts are legumes that fix nitrogen, so you really don't need to grow them with any fertilizer. But later on, when they start flowering and forming their pods, you should supply some nutrients like phosphates and potassium. That will help the pods to grow, to develop well, and all the pods will have nuts. If they don't get those two nutrients, you might get empty pods. Use 70% of compost and 30% of garden soil to make it rich in organic matter. And you can also add sand, because groundnuts grow well in sandy soil. Sand helps the soil to become light. So it's time to add our potting mix. So either use 70% compost and 30% garden soil, or 70% compost, 10% sand, and 20% garden soil. That will be a good mix for your groundnuts. It will have sufficient nutrients. Next, when you're adding your potting mix to the container, don't add it to the brim, because you have to keep on earthing up the groundnuts as they grow. Peanut pods grow 4 inches deep, or you can say 10 centimeters deep. So once they get to 25 to 30 centimeters, you start healing them, or you can say you start earthing up. You add soil to the pointed pegs that will start growing around the container. The peanut plant will form yellow flowers, yellow like flowers, and there will be stalks which will start growing and attaching themselves to the sides of the plant. So as they attach themselves to the side, you keep on healing your peanuts. Those pegs that attach themselves to the side of the plant will form more pods. If you don't earth them up, you will not get a good groundnut yield or peanut yield. Add your potting mix. Peanuts mature between 90 to 150 days, depending on the variety of peanuts you get. You can choose varieties that mature early if you don't have a long growing season, because they need at least 100 to 130 frost-free days where it's warmer. At least you have a longer growing season. If you live in a cold region, start your seed indoors a month before. You can time when spring sets in, and transfer your peanuts when the soil becomes warmer. Germination occurs when the soil temperatures have reached 70 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's the optimal temperature for your peanuts to grow. Flowering and pod formation occurs between 70 degrees Fahrenheit to 95 degrees Fahrenheit. I've done a video on zero-cost seeds. Please watch the video to understand which other crops you can grow at home using zero-cost seeds. So I just got these peanuts from the kitchen, and you're only going to plant a few. So let's discuss the type of seed you should plant. Select seeds that are well formed. Select seeds that are well formed, like this. Because if this variety gets to this size and you find this size, it means when they were being harvested, some of them had not formed completely, so they look like this. So when you are planting seeds, always select the best. Let's discuss the spacing. This container is about 50 centimeters wide, or you can say 20 inches across. So I'm only going to plant 4 groundnut seeds. When you're planting your groundnut seeds, make sure they have this thin cover, this outer cover. Don't remove the outer cover, otherwise you'll inhibit germination of the seeds. So the wider the container, the more seeds you can grow. Cover your seeds with about 2 to 3 inches of your potting mix. Don't place them too deep, otherwise you'll delay any germination. 2 to 3 inches of soil. Just your potting mix. So after germination, which takes 10 to 14 days, and the optimal temperature for germination is around 21 degrees Celsius or 70 degrees Fahrenheit. In 3 months, once your peanuts start flowering, you should know that the pod formation process has started. The last step is to water. That's all for this video, friends. I'll keep on posting updates. If you are new here, subscribe and follow this series. We are building our food and garden heaven. After 10 to 14 days, this is what you should expect. This one has germinated. And after 3 weeks, this is how it will look like. Until next time, bye.